So Mac versus PC. Both have their advantages, but is there really a clear-cut winner when it comes to being a creative? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? My name is Zach Kincaid. I'm a musician, creative, and entrepreneur, and today we're going to be talking about a war that's been going on for generations. Well, really just one generation, but we're going to talk about which is better for your creative workflow, a PC or a Mac. I'd just like to start by saying that if you're buying a computer in 2020, you can't really make a wrong choice. Technology has advanced so far that pretty much any computer you get, granted some will be more powerful and better suited for certain tasks than others, but as long as you're willing to put in the work and put in the time, typically you can pretty much do any job you want to do. So Mac or PC, is there a clear winner when it comes to being a creative? Well, yes and no, and I know that's the answer you get all the time, and that's because that's the actual answer. See, it really depends on what kind of work you're going to be doing. Recently, I was given a Lenovo laptop from my work, and although I grew up on PC, I've been on Mac for probably the last 6 years now. And so going back to Windows, a lot of things had changed, and to my surprise, a lot of things had changed for the better. You know, gone are the days of the plain and boring user interface, and now you kind of have a sleek, modern, very streamlined, user-friendly experience, which is kind of what Mac was doing, and that's kind of why they drew so many people in. It was simple. You were able to get done what you needed to get done, and to be honest with you, Windows has kind of stepped up their game with Windows 10. I haven't been on a Windows device since I think Windows XP. Regardless, Windows was very enjoyable to use. It did take some time to get used to it, especially when it comes to, key commands and where everything is and how things work. But actually, after about a week of use, I can pretty much easily go between my PC and my MacBook and have a very similar experience on both of them. I truly believe the statement of a MacBook being more user-friendly and Windows kind of being the nerd computer, I find that a very dated statement. The hardware is very similar across the board, and what I mean by this is you can find a computer on both sides that are able to do the task you're wanting to do. If you're looking for a device to just be a daily driver, they have those. If you're looking for a device to kind of be a workhorse, they have those. I'm not going to take too much time talking about specs. Yes, we know if you're buying an Apple computer, you're paying more money for specs that you get at a cheaper computer. We've all heard that, okay? But what we haven't talked about really is how the workflow is really affected on these devices. When it comes to choosing a PC or a Mac, there is really one question that you have to ask yourself, and it is what applications am I going to be running on this? Not what am I going to be doing, because if you're saying you're going to be doing video editing, you can do that on both. If you're saying you're going to do music creation, you can do that on both. It's what application you want to run. Some applications will only run on Mac, some applications will only run on Windows. For example, I create all of my music in Logic Pro X, and I edit all of my video in Final Cut Pro X. Those two applications only work on Mac OS, and while some people see that as a bad thing, I think it's a very, very good thing, and here's why. I started my music creation in Pro Tools, and I started my video editing on Adobe Premiere. Don't get me wrong, these programs are absolutely incredible, but they're not optimized for Mac. They work really well on Mac, but they're not optimized to the point Final Cut and Logic are. Final Cut and Logic are made by Apple. They are seamless and they work seamlessly together. So if I have a video and I need to put some music in it, I can open that video in Logic pretty simultaneously, work on the instruments, put those plugins back to Final Cut. That is my workflow. That works for me. So while some people see that those programs only work on Mac as a little hiccup of them, I think it's great because they're optimized, they run fast, they run smoothly on that device because they were made specifically for that device. On the Windows side, you're starting to see a little bit of that with something like the Razer Blade Studio. Razer actually worked with Adobe to create a device that was optimized for Adobe Premiere. It was a machine built specifically for video editing. And on the gaming side, yes, I believe gaming is creative, Windows absolutely dominates. Not because a Mac can't run the game, but because Windows devices typically run it better because they're built to run those programs, just like a MacBook is built to run the Apple products. Now, can you run some of the same applications on either device? Absolutely. Adobe Premiere is going to run very similar on Windows and Mac as long as the computers are both spec'd out similarly. If they have the same hardware, they're not going to get kind of bogged down by the OS when it comes to things like that. As I said earlier, the advantage is when you have programs that are specifically built to utilize all the hardware efficiently, and that's where you have things like the Razer Blade Studio working with Premiere or Logic and Final Cut Pro working with Apple products. It all comes down to compatibility and what you're looking to do with it. So if you're looking for me to give you an answer on which is the best product and clear cut, this is better than this, it's not gonna happen, and you shouldn't let it happen. No one can dictate what device is gonna be best for you than you. For all you know, it might not even be a laptop or computer, it might be a tablet, something like the iPad Pro or the Samsung Galaxy. Do people even use those though? You get what I'm saying. It's not about what you see other people doing and what other people have told you will work. You're gonna have to try it out on your own. And if you're someone who's been on Final Cut, you're someone who's been on Logic Pro like I have, then you're probably gonna stick to Apple devices. But if you're someone who's on Mac OS and you're using something like Adobe Premiere, the Razer Blade Studio might be the next option you go to because of how optimized it is for that. And no one's gonna look down on you because you're not on Mac anymore. Let's get that middle school, high school stuff out of here. The whole, oh, you got an Android, you got the green bubbles. Like, technology is absolutely incredible nowadays, and the fact that we have access to it is great. So don't feel like if you're not on an Apple computer, people are gonna look down on you or they're gonna think you're lesser. Like, most of the PCs can be just as expensive, if not more expensive than the Macs. It's just people are kind of ignorant and don't really know that. But if you do, and it fits your workflow, you can determine what's best for you and what's best for your creativity. There is no such thing as a bad computer, but there is such thing as a bad computer for you. Quick example, if you're editing photos, you're probably going to want to go with something with a color accurate screen, something like a MacBook Pro or a Lenovo X1 Carbon. What you don't want to do is go for something like an iBuyPower laptop or computer that is probably going to be more suited for gaming, and because of that, typically the saturation is going to be a little bit higher and you're not going to get as true of an image. In conclusion, specs aren't everything and neither is the operating system. It's all about how you're gonna use it. If you made it to the end of this video and you found it enjoyable, go ahead and hit that like button, leave a comment, and why don't you go ahead and subscribe? I'd love to have you as part of my family. I have a lot in store for 2020 and I would love for you to join me along the way. For those of you who have been with me, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Keep creating. Take care.
Like a genie in a bottle. Been a little boy, but that no longer is my title. Used to play with toys, but now I'm playing with some models.